And good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Friday of Chat Canna. The shot there in front of our house was, that's my farm on the left and a cousin's farm on the right, but this is facing west, and I took this before the last big storm that we have had here. So that is some of the beautiful clouds that were roiling up and dropped all sorts of rain all over the Red River Valley a couple of weeks ago. And I just happened to get that shot. But much more beautiful things to look at here on our screen right now as we welcome today's guest. And of course, my co-host who happened, I don't know how you signed in later than our guest today. That's why you ended up down in the bottom position here.
I like this position here.
Right,
I feel
already.
like,
yeah, you can,
I'm holding you up.
Oh, the foundation. She's supporting us today. But down below me, see, it's always backwards. Down below me here is Veronica Michael from Fargo, North Dakota. And she is an awesome lady that we have run into in our hemp journey. And you can only call it a journey because the journey goes all the way back to Bible times. And that's all right. This is live TV, so anything can happen. As long as they don't come marching in with a bunch of clowns, we're okay. So
that would be funny.
That would be funny too. But did you schedule
I have something pretty close to it. I have two enthusiastic pit bulls that are trying to play. So
alrighty, but go do what you need to do. That's fine. But goes all the way back to biblical times, and of course, America took a big gap for about 70 years, and now we're trying to get caught up with all of the other things that goes on. So right down here below me, Veronica Michael, take it away. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm happy to be here. We have an awesome guest with us today, Lauren, who is the executive director of the North Dakota Hemp Association. And Lauren is here to visit with us a little bit about the association, what it does, who they are, what they're looking forward to. And I'm excited to jump in. Hey, Lauren.
Hello, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm the executive director for the North Dakota Hemp Association. We're a pretty new group. We got together in October of last year, and we dedicated our mission to advocacy, education, and furthering cultivation. Right now, especially up in North Dakota, we have a lot of special folks that haven't been introduced to the plant intimately. And so a lot of that education comes down to not only teaching cultivators how to grow it now as per the 2018 Farm Bill, but also teaching the public about the nature of the plant, what its functions are really dedicated to be, and that it is different than the intoxicating plant that we hear so much about, which is namely marijuana as that buzzword. So we've been getting together with some experts out in Oregon. So our cultivation director has helped spearhead some of our education for farmers. So some of those classes look like the risks and rewards of hemp farming, what to really expect, some of those input costs that you might not quite expect, and how to really treat the plant because it's not going to grow quite like corn or beets up here. And then the next most important piece that we find most pertinent at this time is advocating for policies that really work with the plant and that will open up the lanes of commerce for it to really succeed.
Yeah. So Lauren, how did you personally get interested in hemp? Are you from a farm family? I mean, we'd love to know, what was your connection? Yeah.
Can't you see? She looks like a farmer. Don't you see those? Don't you see that farming, those suntan lines and
the suntan lines, my red hair. It's funny. So I'm not from a farming family at all. And actually, if you would have asked me anything about agriculture 2 years ago, I would not have had many educated answers for you. So I've done a lot of homework. So I had an investor, Justin Berg. He was one of the founders for the North Dakota Hemp Association and a great friend of ours. And I had been active in the community and just getting people together. And he said, hey, you have a gift for catalyzing change and getting the right people in the room. And I see that as being enough to start this up. So I did a lot of my homework and learned about what it takes to start up a nonprofit. And so it really just came down to shaking hands and going to the right educational summits and seeing what the industry really needed from us to make this a successful mission. And as far as my personal background goes with cannabis, I was very excited by it because of its medicinal properties that people have been trying to prove through research for numerous years, especially when my dad was suffering with ulcerative colitis. He was taking opioids and, had a tough time with that because it does acquire dependency, as we know. So we went to some legal states and he tried some things out, and he found cannabinoids to be extremely helpful in getting him off of those opioids.
Yeah, that's a wonderful personal story. John, you look like you want to say something.
Oh, I always want to say something, but it's so great because we have guests on. It's sort of like each one of them has a story that is, I always hear the word opioids, and somehow there's this connection of let's find a way to minimize, not necessarily eliminate. Opioids have their place. Let's not say that we have a magic cure, but can we minimize, can we stretch, just like Casey, who you both know, and his aunt, for her, it was fentanyl. And the products that we're providing let her stretch out the time taking fentanyl patches. And of course, fentanyl for her just was a brain muddler. It just muddled her brain. Well, the more hours that she's not on that patch for her pain, the more hours she's with her family and having quality of life. And what's that worth? What kind of dollars can we put on that? And we're still in the baby learning, finding out all about this product kind of place. So it's just so awesome. It's sort of like I should have a big chart on the wall, and with each guest that we have, okay, do they know somebody who this product helped with opioids? And we could put a big check mark on it. And it's just a joy each time that I hear a story like that. So that is
absolutely
so wonderful.
I'm sorry. Just to add to that, one of our partners out in Oregon, the way that she had talked about cannabis, being able to help people with their pain was really profound to me. And she said that when people ingest cannabis in the way that is good for them, she'll never talk about how it's going to cure anything, because that's a danger zone. You can't say anything like that. But it does help you process your pain in a way mentally to where you can start to tackle it in ways where you process your pain differently, where you can think about your pain differently, which I think is excellent.
That's interesting. That is interesting because, a lot of people see cannabis as an alternative because they don't have that fog. Like John talked about, they don't experience, they're able to get their appetite back. They're able to, feel like they can be in the world. And that's an interesting thought, to be able to be calm enough to really zone in on your body and what's happening, because pain is so confusing. It's fascinating. You had made a comment, Lauren, that interests me about, how you are great at bringing people together. What has been the path towards kind of collecting people or bringing, who have you brought to the table for the North Dakota Hemp Association?
Awesome. Well, you for starters. So I contacted you pretty early on. I think we started communicating in like November time. Yeah. And going to the Northern Hemp Summit back in late November was a really great catalyst. So just looking at some of the sponsors that were there, shaking the hands, and just looking at how North Dakota was really structuring its view and standpoint on hemp, and listening to the ag commissioner. So just getting involved with the right people and seeing who was doing research, who is involved, how are we studying the plant here, and what involvement are we really picturing this plant to play a part in our state as well. So that summit was the main catalyst, and just taking names and reaching out by email. So some of those really important connects for us right now are AURI, which are located in Minnesota. And I highly encourage anybody that's really enthusiastic about hemp, that wants to learn about the nitty-gritty details, but also doesn't want to read something stuffy and get lost in it, go and read AURI's comprehensive hemp report. They put it together last year. It's designed well, it's beautiful, and it'll give you the historic pieces, as well as how it can perform in the hemp fuel, feed, fiber, and there's one more F here that I'm missing here, but it goes through all of those different functions.
Pharma.
Yes.
Fuel, feed, pharma.
Thank you. I was thinking F, not P.
AURI is awesome. I mean, we had Harold on recently and just a wonderful conversation with him. I think Minnesota is so innovative in what they are already doing with hemp and the way they're reaching out. And like you said, that report blew me away too.
Yes.
What are the other organizations that you are connecting with the North Dakota Hemp Association?
Yeah, so NDSU is a big one. So we've been corresponding and seeing what research that they are seeking outside of the hemp pilot program. And right now, especially what we need is a very in-depth report on the economic viability and the possibility of this plant to really perform. And like with any new commodity, it's just it's figuring out what that demand is going to look like, right? So we still have a lot of steps in order to figure out that whole picture. And then besides NDSU, we've been working with some experts in Oregon. They're from Omnibusman Enterprises, and Barrett Dash, he's on our board of directors as well. He helps a lot with the cultivation and doing farming consulting and a lot of the one-on-one help that our farmers need. And then we have Michael Graylam, who is a part of the Dakota Resource Council, and he just released a hemp paper mill study that was sponsored by us and the Dakota Resource Council. And it's really interesting. We have the summary posted on our website at hempnd.org, but I just want to share a little snippet from that here. It's just a little paragraph. So, and you can look more in depth online. But, quote, perhaps most importantly, hemp has the potential to offset the most harmful issues of the pulp and paper industry: deforestation, chemical pollution, and energy emissions. Along with the timber industry, pulp and paper are a leading cause of deforestation and ecosystem decline both in the United States and around the world. Likewise, chemical runoff has a major impact in many waterways. Much of the energy emissions from modern pulp production are related to treating the large volumes of water needed to clean these heavy chemicals from the pulp. This process, however, needs significantly less cleaning and uses none of these chemicals. The pulp and paper industry uses 4% of all energy used globally. There is strong evidence that hemp-sourced pulp can last in the recycling ecosystem significantly longer than other pulp sources. Combined, these factors would allow a hemp-based pulp and paper ecosystem to significantly offset these problems.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So how did you get connected to Michael to do this type of study? And can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Michael was a referral from Sam Wagner, who is also at the Dakota Resource Council. He's been helping me organize things and sitting on the board with us as well.
That's awesome. You know, there are so many researchers through NDSU, Botno, other campuses doing wonderful work. And also people like Sam and Michael. We really have the right space here in North Dakota and in the Red River Valley to launch hemp. What do you think is holding back some of the process outside of the cannabinoids like us, like fiber or other processing?
I'm sorry, can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah, what do you think is holding back fiber to really go in North Dakota?
Oh, yes, of course. So we only have the first link of the supply chain, which is cultivation, and we still have to find the solutions to make that flow a little bit better on that linkage. But when we're thinking about a whole industry, we have to think about all of the other linkages that make that supply chain work, from growing it in the plot all the way to the consumer. So the main constipation point, for lack of a better phrase, would be the lack of, with processing. There was no processing infrastructure within the state of North Dakota. So farmers that were lucky enough to secure contracts with others would have to ship their hemp either to Montana or to Canada to get processed. And we do have a couple hemp manufacturers in state. So that's like the next link after the processing, right? So you have your whole plant and you grind it into these certain types of composites and these different types of materials. You separate the hurd from the fiber, and the base fiber. And you can send it to manufacturers like C2 Renew, and that's another really important linkage that we've made here in the last few months. So they make a lot of products that can fit into people's hands, and they've been doing a lot of experimental work. I remember Chad Ulven, who is the CEO of C2 Renew, speaking at the summit last November, and he said that they had made a hemp toilet and shipped it to Africa just because they could. So they were able to do that proof of concept, which is great. And then we also have Matt Marino in Bismarck, who runs Hemp Building Co., I believe. And he works on doing building materials and creating houses with hemp.
Yeah, Matt is our guest next week.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to him. I think, it's so fun I think, I nerd out on talking to everyone across our region that is doing interesting projects and connecting hemp in, I think, just innovative ways that are really going to, like you said, be part of that supply chain and be ready to run when we're ready.
Absolutely. And it's just like the other part of that too is because hemp can perform as so many different end products, it's very impressive, but it's also like, wow, we really need to develop a large bandwidth to be able to create all of the, like the myriad of products that it can be turned into. So it's also about figuring out the feasibility of our market up here and seeing what can reasonably be done in our space and with the amount of people that we have here, et cetera.
Agreed. I think we've lived in such interesting times during this pandemic to really think newly about our supply chains for food, for clothing, for toilet paper, and where and how we're making those products or not in the US. And I think that may bring some real possibility for hemp fiber in the next, 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've done before. We went through a prohibition era with it, and now we're starting to resurge and try to get back on our feet with what we were doing before. I mean, hemp was grown as a means to you could grow hemp or you could pay taxes, in early 1900s. So for a plant that used to play such an integral part of our lives, it makes sense that we should be able to plug back into that again seamlessly without certain hurdles in our life.
I would volunteer to do that. I would rather grow hemp than pay taxes. So if you can make that happen again, I want to be the test plot for that. I'll call Washington this afternoon and see about putting that into effect.
I love it.
Now, Lauren, how do people participate in the North Dakota Hemp Association? How do they get involved?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. So right now we have memberships available for a lot of different tiers. Those tiers are for farmers, for individuals, households, affiliates, and businesses. So we can give businesses some exposure and some marketing along with our media platforms. So if you want to become a member that way, that's great. And then become part of the change, and we can send you action items for certain petitions to change policies in favorable ways for the hemp commerce to actually fruit. And that is the main thing that I would say right now. As far as long-term goals, which we haven't quite developed wholly yet, is I'm thinking about working with NDSU and getting internships available for students that are studying ag and want to work with hemp in their plots.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because there are so many wonderful things that students are doing in soybeans and other crops at NDSU. It would be fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I wanted to expand a little bit too on the petition part because that's a big piece of our mission is advocacy, right? So farmers right now are going through a lot more risk than reward for growing hemp, and we're hoping to see that change in the future. But some of those things look like, number one, remediation, which means if your crop tests hot, quote unquote, over that 0.3% THC, you have to have your entire crop destroyed, which is really not ideal, especially when you're invested in your farm wholly, like that is your livelihood, right? And especially when you're growing a new crop, I mean, the likelihood of something going wrong is pretty high, let's be honest. So we don't want to put that pressure on farmers, and we want them to feel a sense of security that way. And it's not really something that I personally believe crop insurance needs to be dependent on for is that when we can use hemp for so many different things, especially like mulch and fertilizer, just some of these basic things that don't even need to be processed or moved throughout the whole chain, So some pieces like that.
And it's ironic that when they're doing their testing to see if it's 0.3,
Yes.
They're picking the highest THC part of the plant, yet we want to, when we bring it in for processing, we're bringing 80-90% of the plant in, and you average it out, just like Veronica says. Folks have brought product to her thinking that it's got this much CBD in it, but really, when you blend it all together, it's got this much CBD in it. And really, if we blend it all together, that THC level is going to come way down too. But yet the test is picking these really nice leaves here and buds on the top that are, guess what, high in THC. Kind of not well thought out by the government when they made these stipulations. So that's got to change. I think we're in that 30-day window right now, aren't we? That just came out in your July 31st email about making comment with our friends in the capital city. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, you nailed it. That's definitely another point of advocacy. And then, and also for the testing facilities to develop SOPs across the nation are we using?
You can't use little code letters on this show without telling our audience what they mean.
I was like, are we going to get a showdown because of testing now?
No. What's an SOP?
I hear you. I'm so sorry. I feel the same way about acronyms. They all blend together eventually. SOP, standards of practices or standard procedures. So when we're thinking about like the equipment that we're using to test a farmer's plot, we need to be using the exact same practices all the way through. I know that some testing facilities use different procedures, and that can yield different results. Anytime you throw in a different variable, we learn this like in our first science class we ever take. Anytime you have a different variable, you're going to get a different result. So we want farmers to be able to have that sense of security by sending their samples to facilities and not worrying of getting different results or feeling like they need to send their product to multiple facilities.
Exactly. When you test beer for alcohol, you can pretty much count on it's going to be within 0.1% of the same on your home test when you send it out to 30 places. But yet we have seen that you can send your cannabis sample to 5 different places and have a significant range of tests. We were so happy when we sent ours out that we came in well under the numbers, but still, 2 weeks later, and it could have been over the numbers, and then we would have been screwed. I guess the only word that you can use is screwed. So.
Yep. No, you're right. Well, and then it's also like if that hemp is intended to be processed to be made into a pair of shoes that I'm wearing, why does it quite matter to test it?
Well, because you can shred the shoes and you grind them up and then I don't know, whatever it is.
If someone did that, they're making the wrong choice.
Well, that's right. You might as well get
shoes are more valuable.
You might as well get banana peels out or something. I don't know. It's not.
But it definitely is a misunderstanding or a distortion of what the cannabinoids do at certain ranges. 0.3% of THC is so minimal. If people, it's just unbelievable. It's just
Veronica, you might tell us, how did we decide on 0.3? You know that story, right?
Yeah. So we decided on 0.3 really in an arbitrary way. A researcher in Canada, and I'm just totally blanking on his name, but he had been doing studies and needed to define industrial hemp and cannabis. So he chose numbers to make those definitions so he could make a clear line in his research, like scientists do. This is an apple, this is an orange, and use those. He had no intention that would nationally be adopted by the European Union to how they would think about potency, or then the US adopted that same number really without talking to this researcher, without asking questions about what was the validity of choosing this, how did it impact his own research, and the why, right? So did I get that right, you guys?
You got it exactly right. And it's so sad because if it would have been, for instance, at 1%, it still would not have affected the product and it would not have made it smokable, and kids couldn't have gone in a field and stole some of it and had a party. It wouldn't have done anything. But boy, as far as the genetic testing and the ability to breed one plant with another and try and move forward in building better products,
Mm-hmm.
it would have opened up. But instead, the number one thing that a geneticist is worried about all the time is, can I keep this product to next year to try and do something with it to keep it under the legal limit all the time? And that's just totally unfair. And we are hoping that cooler heads will prevail, but we all know how fast our friends in higher places move. And so that's why, of course, in your newsletter, you talked about that they are opening the door a little bit to listen to us, right? Is that where, that's where the conversation is now, that they're going to entertain a listening time?
Yeah, I mean, especially on the state level, we've had a lot of success talking to some legislators and the ag commissioner. And when we got together, gosh, I think that was like almost a month ago now. When we talked to him, it was a pretty successful meeting. I mean, he was in agreement with most of our proposals and had said that he advocated for those as well, because he wants hemp to succeed here. The main problems lie at the federal level. So that is where our focus is starting to shift. And there's other groups too. I mean, Vote Hemp is the number one. They're so successful at advocating for hemp, and I highly recommend anybody that wants to be a hemp advocate, obviously come to our website, be a part of the North Dakota Hemp Association, please. But especially if you're looking to add to that bandwidth, go to Vote Hemp. They have a lot of action items available.
They do, and they have a lot of clear information that really breaks down the why and how we can move forward. I think it's fascinating that, we are at this. It was exciting to talk to the Ag Commissioner because he understood so much about what we were passionate about, I thought, too, Lauren, and really was supportive. I thought one of the things that he, was really clear about is, he didn't use these words. These are my words. How are we going to die on these hills for potency, though? How can we think differently? The federal government isn't exactly a fast mover, and we want this industry to move forward. So how can we be creative? I think an irony of all this is there should be something in between moving hemp forward and totally legalizing cannabis. And there just doesn't seem to be that thing in the U.S. that we need. Vote Hemp, wonderful. They do wonderful things, but it's like, have we really gotten to just the black and white place?
Right. Yeah. That's a good question. It would be a lot easier for everybody if all cannabis was legalized, just because I think we could push forward some policies that actually work the first time, and we don't have to keep revisiting and going back and redrawing on the drawing board. And also, if we have linear policies that actually work, we're going to stop alienating the plant and giving it so many different names like marijuana, hemp, blah, blah, blah. It can be really confusing, especially for the public who doesn't really know much about it at this point.
And tying the hands of so many land grant universities like NDSU and other places that are really prepared to do that kind of work.
Yep, absolutely.
So what do you see next for the North Dakota Hemp Association going into 2021?
Oh, yes. So we are working on securing some grants to just keep advocating, keep working towards better policies for farmers. That's going to be the most tangible and the most realistic thing to work on as we start building the linkages like I was talking about earlier. So there are, we just did a hemp demo about a week or so ago with Plantology and Rotochopper. So Rotochopper specializes in making large industrial scale grinders. So this demo really proved the point of, hey, we are starting to catalyze processing in the state of North Dakota, and we're starting to make the right steps. So it's amazing work, and we're starting to pioneer what that chain looks like and making the blueprint. So as far as the future goes, before 2021, I think it's mostly going to be advocacy and planning some educational hemp events as well, trying to connect the dots between tribal locations and other farmers here too, and get together with our legislators and just teach them about hemp, because you can't regulate something you don't know a whole lot about. So that'll be the first immediate future.
What? That seems like what's what our government is based on.
Right. Well, and then we also have to approach them. It's all about approach style. I mean, we can't just go in there guns a blazing asking for the moon, because I don't even think that's really what the hemp industry wants. We just want fair policy. We want it to just work. And honestly, if we were going to advocate for liberalizing recreational cannabis in state here in North Dakota, we wouldn't be the North Dakota Hemp Association, you know. So we're just wanting fair policies for all and to keep the doors open to make this a possible commodity.
So I've been fascinated by your commitment, Lauren, to actually get your hands dirty and in the ground. You have, it's twice now you've went to visit farms on the West Coast. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience and jumping into farming?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny. I had graduated college with a marketing and advertising degree about a year ago. So I did not envision my future being an ag. So the first thing they teach you in marketing and advertising is that you have to understand your audience. So when I realized that working with farmers was going to be the main focal point to tackle, I was like, well, I really need to understand them. So when we had met Barrett Dash, who's our cultivation director currently, he's based out of Bend, Oregon. I went out there to visit him and tour his farm. And I just think the West Coast is so beautiful. So it was also half really fun time and just adventures. But this last time, about a month and a half ago, when we went to go visit, I worked on his plot, and we took care of about 15 different cultivars, some hemp, and then some others for his other work for Space Labs. But it was beautiful. We pruned the plants, and then we primed the rows and laid down the irrigation. And he has about 2.5 acres of land, so it's pretty small, but it's always great to start small. So I really appreciated that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think there's such an intimacy with, and I just love plants in general. So maybe I'm the only one that gets super starry-eyed about it. Actually, no, I'm in North Dakota. I can't say that. There's a lot of people that love what they're doing. But when you get your hands in the soil, there's something magical that happens, and you get to connect with the plants and really enjoy them and start to understand their personalities. You know, every single plant that we work with operates differently. So it just started helping connect the dots of how much of babies they are. You know, they need so much TLC, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to tend and care for that and see the process, because they grow very quickly too.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they don't, especially hemp. Last year we planted them and they came up and they grew to be about this high, and they stopped, and we were calling everywhere going, what are we doing wrong? Yeah. And they stopped, and we were out there every day, and we were talking to them. We were hollering at them sometimes. And, and then all of a sudden they went through this growth spurt again, and then they grew, and then they stopped again. And then one day, literally overnight, we went out there, and they went from being these things to literally being Christmas trees. And it was just an awesome experience of sometimes they just would turn their heads and put their noses up and say, we're not going to do what you want. We don't care how much water we get. We're just going to absorb the sun and do nothing for you for a while. And then all of a sudden, the beauty of the plant and the buds, and the buds were the most beautiful at night. I don't know if you know that, but we would come out at night with certain lights, and I got to throw some of those shots up here somewhere. I'll get some of those. But that was the beautiful photography moments when the purples and the reds and the blues came out, and it was like, now I know why we waited all this time. So.
We're a bunch of hemp nerds.
Oh God, we are.
Yeah, it's kind of like their incubation period of just like about to pop off, And when we were planting out there, his plot is it's pretty open. There's not like a wind barrier by a lot of trees or anything. And so when we were planting it, and mind you, very sandy soils, so you have to really plant them deep so they're not just blowing right out. But when the wind blows and kind of exercises the fiber in the plant, it creates a stronger stalk, and it builds upon those fibers. And I just think that's so beautiful, and also similar to how humans are. If we go under stress or we go to the gym and we work out, we gain that strength too. And so I think just getting with the plants and making it tangible for yourself is going to be such an amazing thing. So I hope that next year, especially, we can take people to a test plot. We can introduce them to the plant and have them really just touch the leaves, see it, and see the soil and everything, because that really can be the missing piece between putting hemp all the way over here, and thinking about corn so differently when that's all plants.
Mm-hmm. No, I love what you just said. Also about the wind, because we have that in North Dakota. I mean, our ability to grow an amazing hemp fiber is,
What is this wind you speak of? I do not know of this.
It's actually the shocker when it's not happening. You're like,
I always refer back to the Wizard of Oz. Remember when she was trying to get home, when the tornado was coming, and her and the little dog were against the wind. That's how it was going to the bus every day here when I was a kid. You must have been through some of that too, Veronica.
Oh my gosh. I remember in the 80s where like the black dirt, you're like going to the bus and the black dirt from the field is like hitting you because it's so windy. And I'm not even kidding you, right, John? It's crazy.
Oh.
It's like, whoa.
And you'd come home and you go, can we move to Florida? You didn't care that there were gnats or dangerous times or expensive taxes. You just go, can we move to Florida, please? Can we move to Florida? And, but Dad would look at me and go, you just don't get it yet, do you? And, I had to be like 60 years old really before and a world traveler. But now, a lot of my peers have moved off to the Arizona retirement communities and stuff. And I'm here with my hands in the dirt and I'm loving it, so because bring the wind on, I'll take it. So.
Yeah, that's how you build such a strong, resilient farmer too. It's very noble work. I have a lot of respect for farmers now after having some of the experiences that I've had so far. And I have a whole new scope of what that looks like and really appreciate it and aim to farm myself in the near future.
That's awesome.
Should we get her one of those little things she can put on her counter, with a light on it, and she can
I want one of those.
Yeah. Hey.
We have a bunch of herbs growing in the back. They absolutely blew up. Actually, Veronica, she gave me this hemp compost from Prairie Products because she had some left over, and we used it in our garden. And our tomatoes, I am not kidding, they're blowing up. They're insane. And they're juicy and just super flavorful. And it's performing really well with the rest of our plants too. So
you know why that is, don't you? Do you know why that is? I mean, the real short story of why we live in the Red River Valley.
Yes.
For X amount of thousands of years, depending on who you want to believe, there was 300 feet of water above us, pushing the soil down into this muck.
Yes.
And Veronica comes along with the remains of the hemp product, like you can see around our picture here. Mm-hmm. And that opens up, it takes away the 10,000 years of the water pushing the soil really into almost a plastic goo, like what do the kids play with? Silly putty. Or not silly putty, what is it? Play-Doh. That's what I mean. And it puts it back into the soil. It has air, because plants don't only need to take air or water and nutrients out of their roots. They're an air plant too. And that's what happened down there just by accident. But that's what made your garden grow so well, because you got the soil amendment that changed your pressed together Red River Valley soil.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about aeration, especially with humus too. Because hemp is such a great puzzle piece to that. And then, also we need some other things, but I'm fascinated because I'm starting to study soil science as well. And so earthworms, we can thank them for absolutely everything.
Right. That's right.
They're incredible.
Sugar beets, that was what sugar beets did when they came in the 1900s. They were the first crop that came and put that taproot down and put holes through the hard pan. My dad talked about that. That was the big deal back then, because everything was just growing on the top. And these sugar beets came in and started putting holes through down into the subsoil. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because hemp has a taproot as well. And that's how it helps aerate the soil. Yeah, just like you said. That's perfect. So yeah. anyways, but yeah, so no, earthworms, they actually excrete more bacteria than they eat, which makes them amazing, right? So they're just multipliers. And then
you can say poop. You can say poop on this show. It's okay. We're not on TV.
well, so yeah, so they poop humus, and then it turns into very spongy material, right? So yeah, it keeps that aeration in the soil, just like you said, and it has that bacteria to feed the microorganisms that are in there and the protozoa and everything else that's interacting with it. So, super cool stuff.
No, it is cool.
It really is.
It is, and it's amazing that the waste from our hemp processing can, provide nitrogen, provide other aeration to the soil. Harold and Ari have done some interesting research with pelletizing that product for garden use, and yeah, there's opportunity ahead. So when you were out in Bend, I have a couple questions. So one, Oregon is saying that they're seeing a significant decrease in hemp farmers in their regions. Did you notice that when you were out there?
I will be totally honest. I don't have a great answer for you because I was really just working on Barrett's farm, and we were working there for about a week and a half or so. The other time was mostly adventure. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I think that's just the changing nature of hemp. We've seen about the same amount of growers, though, in North Dakota. Is that correct, Lauren, from last year to this year?
Yeah, so what the public record looked like for the growers last year, we had 64, and then this year we have 68 licensed producers. But the acreage looks a lot different. It is a little bit skewed because I wasn't able to get the amount of licensed acres, but last year we had upwards of 3,000 licensed acres, give or take. And but this year, the North Dakota Department of Agriculture was able to supply me with actual planted acres. So that always looks a little different, whether they actually planted as much or not. But actual planted acres for this year is at 1,262. So we went down in acreage, even though we gained 4 producers. But
what do you think about that? What do you think the reason is?
Well, I mean, yeah, it goes back to what we discussed earlier. I think farmers they're excited, they want to grow it, but they're feeling the risk and they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, So without a contract thought ahead and locked in before harvest, I mean, you're kind of screwed. I mean, there's nowhere to send it. You're just going to keep hanging on to that product and hopefully not let it mold, even though that does commonly happen. But you need to have the next step mapped out.
And that's my feeling and that's why I try to be an advocate, is it shouldn't be the farmer's job to figure out step number 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's what they do is really great. And let's let them do what they do. And I'm putting me in that category, but I mean, let farmers farm and create and build product because they do it so well. I will stand up anywhere in the world and say American farmers do it better. And I have a lifetime of experience and can talk to that firsthand.
Yeah.
But let's not get in there. It shouldn't be up to the farmer then to say, okay, I've raised this bountiful crop of X, Y, and Z. And now here, dramatic long pause. And now I'm stuck with it. We've got to create a suction. We've got to tell that farmer, here we go, here you go. If you can bring a truckload in, not only do we want it, we're demanding that you bring it to us.
Right. Well, and even just having a space to hold that product until it can be delegated further. So, Veronica, I know you had, because you, John, too, you and Casey were talking about the hemp elevator project you guys are working on. Can you talk about that a little?
A little bit. Dave Ripplinger came up with the best kind of a concept word for it is the regional depot. Think of it as that when he hit that word, it was like, wow, we went home with our magic markers and changed all the things, because that puts it in its right perspective as the gathering point, because no matter which parts of the hemp plant are coming together, it's the place that they take the next step. Because, somebody who wants hemp seed doesn't want the rest of the plant. They want the hemp seed, just like a grain miller wants barley and only barley and nothing but barley. He doesn't want grasshoppers. He doesn't want parts of the head. He doesn't want parts of the stalk. He wants barley. Veronica, she knows exactly what part of the plant that she wants, the bud and the little bit around the bud and that end of the plant. And then she can do what she does, and she can do it really well. You know, and the people that make hempcrete, they know what they want, which is different than the paper people that want what I call the silk around the outside of the plant, because that's two extremely different things. And the paper guy don't want the herd that's inside, and the hempcrete guy don't want the silk that's around the outside. So there's got to be a place that can that a farmer can bring kind of like the gross product, but it can be split up into its components so that only the component that step number 3 wants heads that direction. And that is what we see as an awesome opportunity to help farmers create that demand on the other end without complication.
Yeah, I think that is an amazing. The depot concept really struck with me too.
That was the word. We were, we were going through dictionaries and what do you call them? Not synonyms, but homonyms, you know, and it's like, what's the right thing to absolutely explain this? And all of a sudden, Ripplinger just, you know, of course, he's a smart guy and he's been playing the game.
He's a wizard.
He is.
You know, but the regional depot is exactly the phrase that kind of sums it all up and puts it together. And that's when those exist, so that the farmer has a place to bring his product from whatever mechanism he's harvesting and knows that he can get a receipt, and now he has value in his hands. He has a receipt for 3 tons of X. Then, and only then, will these numbers start going in a really, really good direction. So that's what I'm excited about. See, you guys are too young, and I'm sad in some ways that I'm too old. But for instance, my family was some of the first people in the Northern Valley to plant sunflowers. And that had to have its regional depot of the time, Dahlgren and Company, if you remember that name. It's now SunOpta in Crookston. But, you know, regular sunflowers couldn't go to the general elevators. They couldn't handle that size of seed, weren't interested really, because it was a new crop like hemp is, didn't know where the market was for it. And so somebody took the risk, made contracts with farmers, and started in the sunflower business. Edible peas and beans, when they came into the area, you know, the regular elevators weren't interested in handling those niche crops at the beginning. And that's why bean and pea locations sprung up and handle that need. And that's what we need to see with hemp. And when we do, that's going to be the jump. That's the jump. I'm telling you, if you're at the end of the diving board at that moment, jump big, because that's going to be, you know, up to now we've been experimenting and moving it on, and people are been taking incredible risks with some with good gains, and some are kind of worried about it yet. But when there's that place, then we're in gear, and that's the exciting moment. So that's where we are. And then Veronica too. Veronica, you know, people are going to be bringing her exactly what she wants, and she's going to be cranking without concern, and that's going to be so neat. Oh, by the way, Veronica, thank you for the gift you sent up yesterday. It says it gives you more mental acuity and less stress, right?
Yes.
And we were joking about it, that I don't know if I dare take it because it's only the stress that keeps me going.
No kidding. No kidding. You know, we can't make medical claims, but yeah, I was excited to send you one of our tinctures, our new one,
so
Focus and Energy. Yeah, I'm awesome.
I will take some. Start on the weekend. Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you so much. Well, this is exciting times. The hours slide by so fast here. We want to just stay in touch with you, and you're welcome to come on the show, but you're welcome to just give us like weekly or bi-weekly updates, Lauren, of what's going on and what we can put out to the world and make sure everybody knows about. And we are going to look back on this years from now and go, remember when that moment happened, or when Congress did this and how it changed the world, and we're going to be part of it. I may not. I mean, I'm toward at the end of my human existence, but you guys are young, and you're going to meet when you're my age and go, who was that guy that you were on the radio with back then? And it'll be a great time, you guys, and think nice thoughts about me anyway. But no, this is going to be so neat, and we are here and happy to be sharing this. And North Dakota picked a good representative in you. I'm really happy that you are part of this. This is really neat. So,
well, thank you.
Agree.
Very, very kind of you both to say. So,
well, hey,
I'm very, very blessed to be a part of the shift and the change. And yeah, as far as those updates go too, if other people want to sign up for our newsletter, it's located just at the bottom of our homepage. You can just put your email in it, and it will sign up for our newsletter. And that happens every month or so. So you can expect to see that at the 30th or the 1st of each month.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren, for your time and all the great information about the North Dakota Hemp Association. I look forward to visiting, John and I look forward to visiting with you again. Next week, I guess we are going to be jumping to a new guest. We're going to have Matt Marino on from Mandan, North Dakota. As Lauren mentioned earlier in the show, Matt works and is working on a building project utilizing hemp and hemp composite, which we're excited to learn more about Matt and how he got there and where he's headed.
So it's going to be a fun time. We hope everybody will tune in. And so, Lauren, we'll say goodbye to you for now. I know you guys will chat and catch up later in the day. So we'll say goodbye. We're going to pitch our future shows a little bit and catch up between ourselves here. And so you have a wonderful day. And you can stay in the green room too if you want. And we'll catch up with you here in a couple minutes.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Wow,
thank you, Lauren. Have a great day.
We did another show. It's so much fun to do these with you, huh?
She was an interesting guest. I think what a great connector to bring that many people together from November. I mean, thinking from November to now, through the coronavirus, through just a kind of crazy time to try to bring people together to start an organization. I'm just really proud of the work the North Dakota Hemp Association has done.
Yeah, and folks, like she listed about 5 categories of membership, but if you fall into any one of those, please join up. And, we got to just start sharing information. North Dakota is a smaller community than Minnesota, and it just takes that brotherhood, sisterhood. We need a new word for because brotherhood eliminates the gals, and there's so many really fine women that are in this too. And so what can we substitute brother and sisterhood for? But it just brings really good people with good hearts together in this business. And so we want to do that. Let's take a minute. Tell me about Prairie Products and what you got, and let's pitch the show or pitch your stuff a little bit here. And I will too. But go ahead.
So we have been doing some exciting things. We took a leap, and we've been advertising some of our products on local radio stations around the state. One of the big messages that I want to really get out there is, if you want to try CBD or you want to try a cannabinoid product, buy local. Buy from our farmers. Here we're taking the time to talk about hemp on this show weekly, and the idea is to expand the ecosystem here. And what listeners can really do is buy a local product. We're labeled Pride of Dakota. You can go to www.prairieproductsnd.com to find our products and purchase the work that we're doing really with local farmers. So, and I know that you guys have some cool things out there too, John. But I think that's really the message. I'm excited about our Focus and Energy tincture because of its taste, and I can't wait to hear back from you, John.
I'm going to try it this weekend. So
we use ginger in the, and it has that calming effect for the tummy. And I love ginger.
Nice. All right. And up north here, we're excited. We've been working with a chemical company down in Minneapolis that actually my mentor has had a 70-year relationship with, if you can believe that. And we are developing a product for cleaning, for working in the hemp business, because when you are cleaning your tools and things, you don't want to pollute the hemp that you're working on, or even the cannabis for those on the other side. And we are developing like a hand cleaner pad and stuff in that industry. And we got our first sample tests back from them last night. So that was a real exciting thing. And we'll be showing you those products for those that are, working in the industry, for the scissors, like when you're trimming and handling and cleaning your hemp machines and stuff. We have the stuff that will not change your product in any way or leave a residue smell or a taste or flavor or anything.
That's huge.
Yeah. So that's something you didn't know about. You just found out about, but we've been working on that since February, believe it or not. But they all of a sudden they couldn't get their supplies because everybody was buying alcohol for the hand sanitizer stuff because of COVID. Yeah. So that's going on. And then of course we have our products that we're inventing, including a dry stick lotion to apply CBD and full spectrum hemp oil to your body and places, and even to your lips. And so we got some fun stuff coming too. And I'll just switch the banner here in case you want to get hold of me. So between what Veronica makes in Fargo and we're having a little fun up here, we hope that you will try some local products wherever you might find them. And that is kind of our show for this Friday. A beautiful, looks like a little bit of rain might be coming in day. And of course, the last thing farmers need, we'd like to get all the grain off now without any rain, but we got to just take it as it comes. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Look forward to talking to you and getting ready. Next week's guest is
Matt Marino.
Matt Marino.
And doesn't he have a fabulous name?
He does. Some names just flow, as opposed to John Reitmeyer.
That actually is a fabulous name too.
Oh, thank you. But it's a little more gruff in German, Even your name kind of flows a little bit. It's kind of nice. So have yourself
a great weekend. Dad.
Thanks. Yeah. Have a great weekend. Thanks
so everyone.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.